All right, so Germany is screwing Africa when it comes to renewable energy.
Sounds horrible.
Very much so. So last month I talked about how Germany is looking to invest many millions and billions of dollars into the African continent and certain coastal countries to look at oil and gas exploration to try to cut off their reliance on Russia. So it sounds great, but it kind of screws over these African countries. And that's what we dived into last month, for those that do remember. And a few days after the episode came out, climatetracker.org actually did a deep dive on these exact topics. So they obviously listened to the show, which is fantastic. Hi guys, how you doing? Now they again mentioned, like I did in the episode, that if Germany didn't want to pay the development of their own renewable sector, they're now creating this whole cacophony of disaster over there. So it just wasn't a good system. Now, what they actually did was incredible, is if they still wanted to build it elsewhere, like they're still looking for gas exploration elsewhere, it's not in Germany, they could help Africa build a renewable infrastructure, which is, I know, mind-blowing, where over in Africa, wind and solar are already the cheapest form of electricity. So they are, in some sectors, ahead of Western countries.
Well, it's the second driest continent in the world. The sun,
wind,
yeah.
all that stuff. But the powerhouses there are Egypt, Nigeria, and Senegal. So Senegal, I think I've mentioned on the show before, has had some pretty horrific incidents in terms of gas explosions and lots of deaths related to that. But anyway, they first looked at Egypt. So what can Egypt do? And they found that if Egypt went up to 82% in renewable energy by 2035, it would create an additional 1.8 million jobs compared to, and in addition to, the current government strategy.
Is that just Egypt?
This is just Egypt I'm talking about. So this is incredible. And it would also prevent 5,300 premature deaths that's linked to the air pollution that's generated from natural gas in the next 2 decades. So that's Egypt alone. Huge benefit there.
And we've been to Egypt. We know how the air feels.
Super muggy.
It was really muggy, and you just didn't feel like you were getting clean air. And we saw like blocks of land that should have had buildings on it, but it was just rubble and dirt and rubbish.
Rubbish, yeah.
Just rubbish everywhere.
Yeah,
So-
it's poor management on their part. But yeah, huge opportunity there. And then kind of jumping across to Nigeria, if they aligned with renewables and stuck with a 1.5 degree target, they could create 3,400 jobs per year per megawatt hour generated. So the reason this figure is really important is because, as you know, once everyone starts to make that transition to renewable, everyone starts to get a kick up their bum with these actual net zero targets, then we're going to have to start importing renewable energy from other nations. And that's why this megawatt hour is really important, because there's seldom a cap to how many jobs this could create and how much income this could create for an economy, especially a developing nation like those in the continent of Africa. So this is really big, and it's the same with Senegal. So again, huge oil and gas giant. They don't export a lot of their stuff because they lack the infrastructure. So this is where it gets really tricky. But if they invested those billions into building the infrastructure there, it would be a huge risk as a stranded asset when we're looking at oil and gas, because they don't have it there at the moment. And we know that once a build starts happening, it takes about 10 to 15 years. What's the world going to look like in 10 to 15 years? A lot of countries are coming close to net zero.
Hopefully very heavy on the renewable rather than the...
Seriously.
Yeah.
So imagine spending billions there, and then that's all stranded. So not a good idea. But if they stuck to that 1.5 degree target, they could create 6,700 sustainable jobs per, again, megawatt hour of electricity generated. So huge opportunities. And if someone wanted to look into that further, I'll leave the link into the...
Someone should go and tell Africa this.
Yeah, just or Germany,
Yeah, true.
They could be
Germany
a huge
really
investment partner in this whole system. Like, they could really create something big and great for these three booming and population dense countries.
But Germany does very well, doesn't it, in renewable sector and everything?
Well, I'm not 100% because they actually, a big part of their plan was nuclear.
Yeah.
But from my understanding, a lot of their nuclear plants are currently offline that were built and the infrastructure is there, but after the Hiroshima incident in southern Japan, they kind of stopped it off.
Away.
Yeah, they stepped away. But it is a part of theirs and France, their neighbour, their net zero plan. So France is focusing, I think over 50% from memory onto nuclear energy is one of their big pathways to net zero. Yeah, so that's my rant on Germany. Scheisenhausen, get your act together.
Sort it out, Germany.